Hi everyone, so welcome back to my channel. In the last video we have covered the useRef hook, and in today's video we're going to start with the next hook, that is useContext hook. So for that what I will do is inside the component folder I'll create one more folder, that is, let's say I'll give it as context. Okay, in the context folder I'll create 4 different components. First let me just close this counter.js. So in this context I'll create 4 different components. First will be a.js. next I will name it as, okay, we'll side by side only create the layout for it by writing rfce. Okay, I'll save this, and then what I will do inside the first component, I will firstly put it in the React fragment, and then I will write a heading for it. Let's say I want to add the h1 for this, right? And I'll name it as component 1. Okay, because it's a first component. Next is, okay, we'll keep it this way only. Now we'll make another 3 components inside this context folder. Next is b.js. Okay, again we will write rfce, and then I'll just copy this thing only, the heading tag, Control C, and we will paste it inside this. Sorry, I'll remove this and I'll paste it. Okay, and I'll save this also. Now we'll again create another component, that is c.js, and we'll write rfce. Okay, I'll remove this thing, put in the React fragments and paste the heading tag, name it as 3. I'll save it. Now in the b.js file I'll remove this also, and inside this I'll put that heading tag and name it as component 2. Okay, now we'll create one more component, that is d. We'll name it as d.js. okay, we'll write rfce, and then here again we'll replace it and we'll write component 4, and we will save it. So now we have separately created all the 4 components A, B, C and D. Now what I want is, I want to create a tree-like structure. What is meant by tree-like structure? Means in the A component I'll write the B component, I'll import the B component. Okay, and in the B component I'll import the C component, I'll write C here. Okay, and in the C component I'll import the D component. Okay, before writing the B component I need to import it also. I'll write B. Okay, I'm not getting any suggestion, so no problem, I'll write it on my own. Okay, now we have saved this. Now what I want is, I want to transfer the data from the A component to the D component. But firstly let's check out the output of this code. I'll save this and open the application and refresh this. So now you can see we are getting the output as component 1, component 2, component 3 and component 4, because in the app.js what we have written is, we have just imported the A component. One second, let me just open the app.js page. So in the app.js page I have imported I've removed the code that we have written before. I've just written the component A, right? So now inside the component A we have component B, right? And inside the B component we have C, inside C we have D. Okay, this is a tree-like structure. So basically I've created this structure in order to explain the useContext hook, right? So now what I want is, I want to transfer the data from the A component to the D component. How we will do it? let's say, we have studied in the previous lectures that if we want to transfer the data from one file to another, we use props. So now what we will do is we'll simply use the props again. Okay, I'll write the props here, right? Sorry, not in the A function. I'll just simply write this in the B, right? Because ultimately, if I want to send the data from A component to D component, I have to firstly pass the data from A to B, then from B to C, and then from C to D. Okay, let's pass it. I'll write here props. Before that, from the A component, I'll pass to the B component through attribute. Okay, I'll write here val equals to, so this is a state variable that I want to pass. Let's say I want to pass this first variable. So I'll write here first. Okay, I'll save this. And now in the B component, I will accept that prop using in this props argument, right? And again, I will send it to the D component. I'll write here props dot first. Okay, now I've sent this to the C component. Now in the C component, again I'll accept it, the props, okay, and then I'll send it to the D again through props dot, sorry, we don't have to write the props dot first, it has to be props dot val because we have given the name as val, not the first. So I'll change it from first to val. Okay, similarly in the C component also will write here props dot val. I'll save this. Now in the D component, I will accept this props, okay, and I want to print that in the, let's say, h2 tag, right? And inside this, I'll put the value as props dot val, right? I will save it. Now let's check out the final output. I'll open the browser. So we can see we are getting the output as component 1, component 2, component 3, component 4, and hello, which we have got from the component D. Sorry, component A, right? So now we have understood that how we can transfer the data along the hierarchy. But don't you guys think that it's a tedious process? Because in this example, we just had 4 components, right? But in the production level, we will be having a complete tree. It will be a complete hierarchy, right? So in that very examples, it's very cumbersome and we can't even imagine that how much work we have to do for it, right? So to get rid of it, we have another hook, that is useContext hook, right? So in the a.js component, what I will do is I'll create a context. Before using the useContext hook, we have to create a context for that. So what I will do, I'll simply write create context. Okay, so it's imported at the top. Now I will save the reference of this create context in a variable, let's say data. Okay, now what I will do is inside this return, I'll write data dot provider, because this component is a provider. A.js component is a provider. So I'll write here provider and I'll cut and paste it inside this. Right? Okay. Now what we want to transfer? We want to transfer this first state value. Right? So after this data.provider, we'll write an attribute that is value. Okay. Remember that you have to write value. You can't write anything else. And in this I'll pass first. Okay, I'll save this. And now as we have created this context, we have to export it also. So at the end of this component, I'll simply write export data. Okay. Now we will save it. Now in the D component, I'll open this, and to use that context, I'll use the hook as useContext. Okay, so this is where the useContext hook will come into existence, right? So now in this useContext hook, we'll pass that context that we have created in the A component, right? But before that, we have to import that context. I'll simply write data. We are getting the suggestions here. I'll write it, and now we import it at the top. Now inside this useContext, I'll pass the name of the context. Okay, and I'll receive the data. Let's say I want to name the variable as received data. Okay, now we have finally got the received data in this variable. Okay, and I want to display the data in this h2 tag. I will write received data. I'll save it. Okay, now we are done with the coding part. Now let's check out the output for this. I'll save it. Now if I refresh it, okay, so we are again getting the same data. That means we are successful in passing the data from the A component to the D component without passing it to the intermediate components. Okay, for our proof, we'll just remove this. Let's check out, is it working still or not. I'll remove the props from here. Now we will run the code again, refresh it. Okay, that's great that we are getting the same output. That means we are successful in passing the data from A component to the D component using useContext hook, right? So we have come to the end of this video. I hope you find this video really informative, and if you want more such videos, then please do subscribe my channel and hit on the bell icon for more such updates. Thank you so much.